Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, yesterday, President Biden finally made it to the microphone to deliver an address to the nation about the events in Afghanistan. And one can certainly say about that address is that it's done the one thing that Biden has not been able to do hitherto, which is to unite the nation into one big raspberry for Biden. Everybody hated it. I mean, there was no one at all who had anything good.
The real unifier.
It was a unifier. And it was quite striking that the people who had been his champions on CNN, MSNBC, they all trashed it. And of course, you know, everyone on the right, the GOP, Fox News, of course, all trashed it. And the trashing is well-deserved because on the one hand, in terms of the substance of what he said, which is we can't go on fighting in Afghanistan forever, and we can't fight on behalf of people who are not prepared to fight themselves. These were all legitimate points to make. What wasn't legitimate was his attempt to blame everything on everyone else. So it's the fault of the Afghans, it's the fault of Trump, it's the fault of Obama. He even blamed Obama because he pointed out that it was Obama who made the decision for the surge in 2009, and Biden, had been opposed to the surge. So he made that point. And then his point that, well, Trump sort of left me with a legacy because he had signed this agreement in February 2020, and by the time I came into office, there were only 2,500 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. This is a very unconvincing argument because with all of other Trump's policies, Biden had no problem going back on them. I mean, all of his programs on immigration or the environment or critical race theory, all of that Biden has reversed. So the idea that his hands were tied, that he couldn't reverse this, was wholly implausible. And then he had the insolence to say, the buck stops with me. You say this, okay, the buck stops with me. All right, well, good. Now let's go get a drink and have a good time. I mean, it's apparently it's just something you say. The buck stops with me. It doesn't actually mean anything. So, in terms of how much political damage it will do to him, we don't know yet. He certainly shattered all of the preconceptions of those who said, now we have a president who's a safe pair of hands. You know, he knows what he's doing. Competence has returned. The diplomats, the professionals are back in charge. No one is saying that now. But on the other hand, there is no constituency, save for the Neocons, to go back in. So, you know, unlikely to do any lasting damage, but it certainly has damaged him in the short term. Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, either you be the next president that keeps kicking the can down the road for another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, or you're the president that's going to be left holding the hot potato. Right. Joe, I mean, everyone's going to jump on all over me. The speech was awful, okay? It was written by someone or a group of people that were the architects of this 20-year catastrophe. Right, Go over to Politico right now. Right. Their main article. 9 experts weigh. These are the same people. I mean, I was aghast reading the subject. Well, these are the people that created it. Now you want me to listen to them? Yeah. This is exactly what this speech reflected.
Yes, exactly.
All right. He pulled the pin. I mean, no, Donald Trump pulled the pin, and Joe, you happen to be standing nearby. All right. Now, you know, either he's senile or he's a liar or he's both. Trump had a good deal. Okay, and Biden walked away from the Trump deal and tried to graft on his own conditions based and blah, blah, blah. No, the Taliban said, look, we were in Doha with you guys. We signed this agreement. Right. And it's gonna work this way. And there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. So The speech was a catastrophe, but the outcome was inevitable. Maybe the optics could be different. We're not Monday morning quarterbacks, okay? I'm not a logistics expert, okay? I'm willing to give hearing to the optics could have been different, okay? But pretty much what's happened, you and I pretty much expected. And unlike the pundits on cable, our timeline was a lot more in line. We talked about hours and days. They were always about months, maybe a year and a half, all that. No, you and I got this one right, okay?
Right.
Once the dominoes started to fall, there was nothing that was going to stop it here. And you and I have ad nauseum told about that this is just a cautionary tale in corruption.
Right.
You have all these people, the geopolitical China and Russia. No, the grift is over. That's what it is, guys. What the geopolitical landscape will be now, we don't know yet. We have no idea. We have no idea how long it's going to take the Taliban to consolidate power, if it can even do that. I don't know. One thing is for sure, they have a hell of a lot of firepower with them right now. Okay. Now, the Human Rights Brigade spigot of money is going to obviously turn off, but there could be other people that will want to build real infrastructure and not critical race theory. Maybe you need a pipeline. Maybe, you got all those minerals? Maybe we can help you mine it. See, the Chinese, the Russians, others are going to go in there more pragmatically, and they're not going to say, men can get pregnant. You have to tell all your people that.
Right. No, I think it's that's right. I think the what you said about the experts is, of course, very amusing, because now, of course, everybody's apparently saying, it's a complete disaster. It was a fiasco, one mistake after another, 20 years wasted, trillions of dollars pissed away. It was all an absolute disaster. Then you say, well, where were you all these years? I mean, why didn't you point all this out, if it was so obvious? And also, and even more important, what about the current interventions? I mean, why aren't you addressing the U.S. presence in Syria? What exactly is it doing there? Why is there a U.S. presence in Syria? Guarding the oil, helping the Kurds, fighting ISIS, whatever, thwarting the Russians. I mean, there's always any number of excuses. And the moment anybody suggests, well, let's pull out of Syria. Oh, no, we got to stay. We have to stay. No, Iraq, let's leave Iraq. No, we have to stay. And then when you have this ultimately, this complete fiasco, then the foreign policy experts, as you say, they're political. Yes. Absolute disaster. Yet another American failure. Yes, God, terrible. Yeah, we need to learn our lessons. We have to.
The interesting thing, and this is the parody that we're watching in real time of the elites here, is you rightfully, as usual, started out here. There's this bipartisan revulsion towards Biden's speech. Good, fine. I mean, I thought it was an awful speech too. But this bipartisan revulsion is mirrored by the bipartisan drive to keep this thing going on.
Yes.
Look at Lindsey Graham making a complete buffoon out of himself, and Marco Rubio trying to look serious. Marco Rubio, you just physically can't look serious. You look like a stupid little boy. You always will, and you always have. Okay, and then they just bring them on. George and I watch Fox. Just one loser after another that had a stake in the grift.
Right.
Okay, and then well, it could have been done differently. How many different? We had 20 years to do something different, and you did different things all the time for the same results.
Right. And of course, it is the same result, because so you stay on for another 2 years. Then what? I mean, is there any point at which you're going to say now's the time to pull the plug? No, we just sort of stay on forever. And you have to say also, the Trumpians, the people who are defending Trump, they say, well, Trump, it was a conditions based. No, if you look at that agreement that Trump signed in February in Doha, there were two conditions: no attacks on U.S. forces, no terrorist attacks on the United States or anywhere else. No partnership with Al Qaeda. That's it. And as far as we can tell, the Taliban has adhered to those two conditions. There've been no attacks on U.S. forces, and for the time being, at least, there've been no, alliances with Al Qaeda. So that's it. Those are the conditions. It was not attached to the establishment of a coalition government or national reconciliation. That was not the condition for U.S. withdrawal.
It speaks for itself, and it's a very simple agreement. It's not nuanced, George.
Right.
It's very, very simple. And then you have these Anthony Blinkens, these brilliant jerks, okay? They're credentialed, unbelievably so, but they're really stupid people, okay?
Right.
And they want to put their fingerprints on it. Look what the result is, Anthony. This is what you get, okay? Right. This is on you and your elk. You did this.
That's right. That's right. They could have easily, we talked about this the other day. They could easily have left by May the 1st. Then, when the whole thing collapses, they say, hey, well, look, we just stuck by Trump's agreement. It's on him. It was Trump's agreement. We stuck to the timetable that was agreed on. But instead, they didn't accept the timetable. They delayed the departure, and the calamity took place while Americans were still there. So this horrific farce took place while the Americans were still present. So it was a huge embarrassment entirely of the Biden people's making. So now, they're making things even worse by this whole panic-stricken evacuation, because there's really no reason for panic. The Taliban haven't said we're going to threaten foreigners, or we're going to prevent anyone leaving. So the departure could all be arranged in an orderly fashion. So there's absolutely no reason for the panic and those chaotic scenes that we saw at the Kabul airport. Again, this is of the Americans' making.
Yeah, but it's really kind of perverse, isn't it, George? How all the Western media outlet, it's ghoulish in how they cover it. Because it's really great television, but they don't get what's going on. I think there was a CNN correspondent saying, well, they seem like really nice people.
Oh yeah, that was that horrible woman. That Clarissa Ward. She's a jihadi apologist of long standing. She was in Syria. She was in Idlib, doing propaganda work for the jihadis in Idlib. She's a terrible person, and she always immediately puts on this that whole burqa.
One of the interesting things is that Kirby over at the Pentagon, he was fielding a question about, everyone's obsessed with the helicopters thing, okay, right. Obviously because of, and unlike everyone on cable that talks about it, there's very few of them, including, we are in the group that actually remember it and watched it, okay? The rest of them, it's just kind of lore, okay? Right. They got out of some kind of highly edited, perverse, propagandized Wikipedia page, okay? Yeah. Right. But Kirby's, saying, well, no, it was not unusual for officialdom to move from through the city in helicopters. Why is this thinking 20 years and $1 trillion and you can't use the roads, huh? Right. Wow. What did you accomplish? Right. That's what they should be asked. What have you accomplished? And the only person on cable that I saw, and I'm sure you saw it too, is that Tucker Carlson, as usual, he says, is anyone ever going to be held responsible for this? The answer is no.
Yes, no. That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's very funny when he has this picture of General Milley, and then he has this label, thoroughly modern Milley. Thoroughly modern Milley. But the point is that all of these people, Milley, Lloyd Austin, these people are all in the business of making a ton of money, and always were. And they spend their time, helping out their, the giant arms makers. That's what they do while they're working in the Pentagon, and then they will leave the Pentagon and go off to collect their whatever $1 million a year salary as lobbyists for the arms makers. That's their job. They don't care about anything else. It should have been obvious that that's not how you fight a war in a place like Afghanistan. You don't throw in all this very highly sophisticated weaponry that the people locally are not going to be able to use. And then in any case, after the Americans withdraw, they'll need a lot of maintenance. They won't be able to keep the maintenance going. It'll need, new ammunition. They're not going to have the ammunition. So all of these these helicopters either just going to rust there, or they'll just sell them off for spare parts and make a few bucks on that. But completely wasted. I mean, they didn't do any of the things they're supposed to do, which is to teach them how to fight. How do you fight a bunch of brigands like that?
How do you teach illiterate men to use modern weaponry?
Right.
I mean, American high school graduates are challenged enough when faced with this kind of technology. Right. Now, I was coming through, if you look at the Afghan papers, I mean, a lot of these soldiers didn't even know their colors. They couldn't name colors, right. Okay? And you're handing them, some kind of anti-tank weapon or something like that, okay? Right. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, and this has happened, obviously, in Syria. You and I covered it. I mean, and also in Libya. They have no use for they have no use for those kinds of arms, because they're going to fight a very different conflict. So sell it off, okay? Right. I mean, we could even mention Ukraine, where American military material makes it into the Kiev government, and then it suddenly somebody sells it, and it's in the Donbass or in Moscow.
Right. No, that's right. But that's it. I mean, this type of conflict. I mean, look. I mean, what would it have taken to hold Kabul? You don't need, very sophisticated weaponry. I mean, you didn't need the heavy tanks and artillery that the Red Army deployed to hold Moscow against the Wehrmacht. You didn't need any of that. You ultimately just needed a few people with a bit of artillery sitting on rooftops, or anybody who's trying to get in.
Or someone willingly opening the door for you.
Right.
And that's essentially what we have here. Okay, let's be very clear. I mean, when they took control in 1996, they were despised, they were feared, and they were hated, okay? Let's have no doubts about that, and I believe that they have not changed. Nonetheless, after 20 years of American critical race theory, feminism, female empowerment, there's a lot of people in Afghanistan just don't have a clue what they're talking about, okay? I mean, at least you understood the Taliban and their brutality, okay? Right. And brutality is not anything new in that region. Let's be fair here. So, instead of being these, Monday morning quarterbacks like everybody else, George and I got to keep a laser-like focus on the developments that are going on there, because it really is a blank page. Yeah. Questions will be asked. Did the Taliban learn anything from their first time in power? One has to wonder.
I'm very skeptical.
I tend to think they probably have, okay? But I can easily be proven wrong. Go ahead.
It's very hard. Who's that guy? Who's that friend of yours? Name escapes me. You know who I'm talking about. You've had him on Crosstalk. He writes for the Asia Times. Yeah. He seems to think that the Taliban have changed, but I don't necessarily trust his judgment. So, but I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Well, I mean, look, George. I mean, when you're at the pinnacle of your power, and this is an extraordinary break. I personally think a lot of them, they are surprised as well. I mean, they knew the government was corrupt in Kabul. It was only about money and spoils and corruption and kleptocracy, but the way it fell so quickly, unless they had some inside interlocutors arranging things, I would not be surprised.
Oh, I'm sure there was. I mean, look, obviously, this is what happened. I mean, the Taliban worked out all sorts of financial arrangements with village elders and tribal leaders, with warlords. I mean, why was there no resistance anywhere? I mean, there had to have been some sort of deals that were struck to let them take over. Same thing happened in Kabul. But what happens now is, of course, a different matter. I mean, they got the government out. That doesn't mean that the Taliban is actually in charge of anything. I mean, it's like, okay, you're in Kabul, but it doesn't mean that you're in charge of anything. So we'll see.
And if we look at the British experience, the Russian/Soviet experience, and now the American experience, who controls Kabul is neither here nor there at the end of the day. Right. I mean, again, that's a very Western way of looking at it. Kabul is just the finale, okay? Right. And I believe, given the history of the country, is that 75,000 Taliban they're not the majority, folks. Okay.
No, they're not. Yeah, no,
And
I don't think so at all. And when you look at them, I mean, they're just walking around with hunting rifles. I mean, again, this isn't Hitler's Wehrmacht just sweeping in through France or Poland. I mean, this is just again a bunch of brigands with hunting rifles. So it shouldn't have been really that difficult to hold any town or hold a village against these people. So clearly, no one was prepared to do anything. All sorts of deals were struck. We don't know what's exactly is what were the terms of these deals, but that's that's where it is. So the government has gone. With it has gone all of the, like you said, the critical race theory, all the nonsense that the United States was trying to inculcate into the Afghans, who had absolutely zero interest in it. I mean, as we've discussed before, I mean, you've got many countries in Europe that have zero interest in gender studies, critical race theory, and the rest of it. This is what the United States are trying to export to Afghanistan.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that I guess what we learned through this debacle is that the military doesn't know how to fight or win wars, and they don't know how to nation build. No. I mean, these guys are real losers in every respect. Okay.
Right. No, that's right. But again, as we said at the beginning, we had 20 years of this. And now everyone's like, whoa, yeah, it was all a terrible mistake from the beginning. Oh, yeah, you should have left in 2001. So why didn't all these foreign policy brilliant think tankers say this? Why didn't they advocate after 2001 that they should leave? Well, why was it that no one said that? There was no one in think tank land, the foreign policy analysts, the newspaper editorialists, no one ever advocated withdrawing from Afghanistan. And when Trump actually signed that agreement, Trump was attacked. I mean, this was not this is what the hell is Trump doing? Trump is a wrecking ball. It's a disaster. Now, apparently, everyone should never have been there. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, you saw people fear-mongering, and particularly on Fox, okay, is that they're going to, they're successful in capturing Kabul, and they will start an international terrorist wave and all. I mean, there's no empirical evidence to suggest anything of the sort right now. Right. And that's why I'm very cautionary in what I just said a few minutes ago, is that from 1996 to 2001, their behavior was very malign inside and on their borders. Okay, now there is a modicum of goodwill from on the outside in the neighborhood, not the British, like howling in the dark. Like anybody cares what they think when it comes to Afghanistan today? I mean, right. I'm just astounded by that. Oh, and then Merkel kind of weighed in about a plane that couldn't land. Okay, I mean, these people are so irrelevant right now. The neighborhood is the most relevant, and that's where we need to keep our eyes focused.
Right. Well, I think that's it at the moment. Obviously, they are all very wary because of their experience. And they're basically, they don't inspire confidence. I mean, even the few stories we have indicate that they're already restoring the very repressive, Islamic, Sharia law. Back come all the coverings. Remove any semblance of any kind of female flesh, images and anything like that. So. That's what we already know. I mean, we haven't heard of executions or killings and whatever. That's still to come. But I think, to be honest, I mean, I am very skeptical that they have changed very much. But I mean, we should wait. I agree with you.
My caveat is on that score. I believe that they have not changed at all. As a matter of fact, their perception of victory, they may feel vindicated. Okay, vindicated, right. But my point is this: is we also see since the Doha agreement under Trump, is that we have seen the Taliban reaching out to the world, something that they didn't do. What was it? It was Pakistan was the only major country in Saudi Arabia that recognized.
Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Pakistan.
But now we have The Russians and the
The
Chinese.
Russians haven't recognized, but they haven't recognized.
No panic here. We're not.
No, they're
we're
not.
going anywhere.
No, they're not panicking. But there's no talk of recognition. I mean, there's no one has recognized them other than Saudi Arabia, I think, and Pakistan.
My point was, we're not there yet. My point is, they appear to be interested in moving in that direction. Something we need to look at and see what the reaction to that is going to be. Now, let me segue in a different direction here. Is that I'm really sick and tired of conservatives that are actually neocons, but they don't call themselves that. Is that they've just torn the woke page from the playbook about, well, what about the women and the girls and all of that? That was on Fox News.
I know that is just.
It is so nauseating. Right. So again, we need to go to war so Afghan girls can go to school. I find that an untenable, stupid argument.
I do find that it's ridiculous that these conservatives peddle this stuff, and then people on the left peddle this as well. The United States could have done so much, during those 20 years, could have done so much for the women and the girls. Yeah, exactly. And I think, as you pointed out, please don't help us. Don't do anything for the women, please. That's the worst thing you can do. I mean, the whole idea that one country can go into another country and liberate the women and make, provide education for the girls, it doesn't happen. That's, the white man's burden. That whole colonial missionary mission has gone. No one wants it. It was found wanting in the 19th century, and no one wants to return to it in the 21st century. So it's so stupid to say that somehow, we're doing all these great things for the Afghan women. But what we know already, that these attempts to just ram kind of westernized modernism onto the backs of Islamic countries have proved to be an absolute disaster. We had that with the Shah of Iran, which he tried to do this kind of Ataturk thing in Persia. It provoked ferocious resistance from the religious leaders and led to his humiliating.
Let me give you a better one. Let me give you a better one. Remember how Sadat was feted, because Egypt made peace with Israel, and so he was the talk of the town, Sadat, reformer, all this. Right. And I don't remember what the specific occasion was. I'll have to look it up. But I mean, Egyptian media, of course, world media, was covering all of these Western dignitaries paying homage to Sadat, yes. And the message was, here's a decision maker, a strong decision maker, a visionary. Right. But you have these Hollywood starlets coming with low-cut dresses and mini skirts, and that is being projected to the Egyptian people. And it's like everyone's looking at each other. What? Okay, is he being seduced by the Western Satans and all of that? Yeah. In short order, he was assassinated by Islamic fundamentalist fanatics in his own military.
That's right. And you remember when that happened, the Western response was, and they were said, no one seems to be mourning Sadat, because remember in 1981, Sadat was he was almost like a godlike figure in the West. I mean, the West just was adulation for Sadat. Oh, Camp David, his heroic visit to Tel Aviv and to Jerusalem, and what an historic, titanic figure Sadat. When he was shot, the Egyptians just shrugged their shoulders. Okay, gone.
As long as we're pushing away the cobwebs in our memory here, I remember Saturday Night Live. For those who don't know, that is kind of for the left, it's a chic comedy thing. I find it, I just don't know what's funny about it anymore. No, I liked it when I was a kid, but not anymore. But they had a skit, and you have to remember, this is a comedy program. I mean, to the point of slapstick at times, okay? But they had one little vignette, and it was about a fallen dove into a stadium seat, and it was deadpan, and peace took a major hit today, and Sadat, blah blah blah, 1981. Right. And I remember watching it as like, this is a comedy program, right. But it proves our point how fetid he was, right. Because he was a member that was he was a part of the elite capture program, right. Okay. Right. And he paid for his life.
And he paid, and that's right. And so everyone tried to do the Ataturk route, but in fact, it turned out as what we have seen in the era of Erdogan, is that even in the case of Turkey, it was a kind of superficial, the whole westernization, the whole banishment of traditional Islam.
Well, he got rid of
it turned
that
out to be
pretty quick.
superficial.
They got rid of that pretty quick.
Exactly. So that was the model, and so ramming it down, the Afghans' throat. It's a complete failure, and that's why ultimately, we may think the Taliban is ghastly, and they are ghastly.
It's the devil.
For Afghans, it's not that bad for them.
It's the devil,
Right.
And that's what happened here. I mean, I've obviously been kind of absorbing a lot of the stories out there. I find particularly American media coverage of it just absolutely abhorrent. Like I never supported. Oh no, not me.
No,
not
yeah,
me.
that's it. Not me. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's it. Not me.
We always knew there could be a better way, but
that's it. Not me. I mean, I remember after Vietnam. It seemed like every single person had always been against the war. You think, gee, I kind of remember that pretty much everybody was in favor of the war in Vietnam. Liberals, I mean, we're not talking about, conservative liberals, New York Times, everyone, Washington Post, everyone was in favor of the American involvement in Vietnam up until it went south.
Yeah. Hubert Humphrey, everyone. Running in '68, he was a pro-war candidate.
And exactly, and David Halberstam, who wrote the famous "The Best and the Brightest," had written an earlier book in which he said, that it's absolutely essential. The future of the world depends on America holding South Vietnam. Halberstam wrote that, before "The Best and the Brightest." So that's the New York Times man. So everybody was on board for Vietnam, and then I was always against it.
The interesting thing also is there are very few neoconservatives out there, Bill Kristol and Liz Cheney and all of that. They're just saying, no, it was a mistake to withdraw. Very much out of step with majorities in the Republican and Democratic Party, and of course independents. But it shows that there's that old guard that's never going to let go, and they have outsized power. Okay, very much so, outsized power. So everyone is this, this is world historic. This is the most catastrophic event. But what result is there going to be?
That's right. And
look, what was it, Maria Bartiromo on Sunday? She said, where's the defense spending increase? And I was thinking, you need to cut it like 80%. Okay, why do you need to increase it? Okay, so you can find another monster to slay in the world.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. And in terms of, if we're going back into history, when South Vietnam fell, remember South Vietnam fell, and Cambodia and Laos fell really within days. So the whole of that Indochina project just collapsed also within a matter of weeks. And the same people saying, my God, this is the end of the world. And to be honest, at least you could make a more plausible case then, because the Soviet Union was there. I mean, that was at the height of its power and influence, the nuclear superpower. It seemed invincible in 1975. It had triumphed, it had prevailed. Its clients had defeated the United States. There's no ambiguity that this Hanoi was its client. And even then, America survived. So, the idea we're going to tear our hair out over this now, this is laughable.
Yeah, it's just, this is what happens when you have media and online inputs into it, because it's so grotesquely cynical, and it's a catastrophe. It's a national humiliation. Keep watching, keep watching, keep clicking.
Right.
Because George, when this whole goes through the news cycle, they will have gotten the clicks and eyeballs they wanted, but they don't give a hoot one way or another what it means.
No, that's right. I mean, it's ultimately, let's see what political points we can score against Biden. And we can rejoice and and be gleeful. Oh, he suffered a great blow. The problem is anyone who knows, we don't have much time for Biden for all sorts of reasons, but this is not going to do him lasting damage. I mean, short term, yes, it's going to hurt him in the polls. this is the one that he's going to bounce back pretty quickly.
If he were ever to do the right thing, which he will not do, in that speech, that pathetic speech that he gave, he should have said, we really need to stop wasting our time and resources on January 6th. We need to find out why this ended in humiliation.
Right.
And there should be a 9/11 light commission to investigate and bring all of those generals up. And we have their testimony.
Right.
And we have the Afghan papers.
Right.
We need to start kind of cross.
No, I got to agree. Exactly. That should exactly. Congress would be a lot better employed holding hearings on Afghanistan. Of what had actually been going on. Where did that $2 trillion go?
Where did the money go? My God, where did it go?
That is a lot of money. 2 trillion, probably more than that. I mean, these are always, I think these are underestimates. But it is a lot of money. And the idea that your clients they can't survive, more than 48 hours.
Come on, George. The president of Afghanistan left the country. As we speak, I'm sure he is in a residence, probably in Dubai. How many square meters do you think it is? We could probably guess that all day long. But one thing is for sure, it's big.
It's big.
And all of the rest of them. It's just kind of like, well, I have to leave. I can't pay the check. Okay. Point at that guy over there, the American ambassador. You pick it up. I gotta run.
Right.
I got a private jet on the tarmac, okay, which has been running for weeks. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm sure, and I'm sure he's been transferring funds.
Apparently,
in a very nice way.
There are some reports that he was taking a lot.
I saw those reports. They haven't been confirmed. I mean,
They haven't been confirmed. They haven't been confirmed. But
yeah.
The fact that somebody is suggesting it, okay, again, that's why I didn't want to go down that path, because it hasn't been confirmed, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
Mr. Former President, we do have weight limits on this flight.
That's right. Wait.
I mean, if you want to take wealth out of gold bullion, just isn't the right way.
Right,
I mean, have you considered Bitcoin?
No, I'm sure it's weight limits. I don't know. I saw the other day again. Was watching The French Connection. You remember the original movie? They were trying to figure out where the hell is this heroin. And they couldn't figure it out. I mean, they dismantled what is, and then finally one of them says, "What was the weight of the car that when it was loaded?" And, it gives the weight. That's funny, because it says here in the brochure that it should be about, I don't know, 500 pounds lighter. So this drugs must be somewhere in this car. Like, what's the weight of this? Somewhere or other it's hidden. I don't know where it is, but you've hidden it somewhere.
But it is so emblematic of all of this 20-year debacle, is that at the end of the day, it's how much you can smuggle out. Right. Okay, right. That really puts a bow on top of it. The jig's up, the scam is over. Okay, did pretty well for myself, actually.
So I think so. I think Ghani has done very well for himself. I think all of those people, the Pentagon has done very well. The arms manufacturers have done very well. I mean, they're sitting pretty. I mean, they made a nice little bundle. No one else did. I mean, everyone else has to carry the costs, as always happens.
But will there be anyone held to account?
No.
And that's the big question. And you and I are so pretty adamant that that's never going to happen.
No.
Because then you would have to put the entire political class on trial, and they never do that. And that's when CNN and Fox want to say, well, it's the Republic or it's the Democrats. And this political class loves that, okay? Because they don't look at us collectively, because they are collectively at fault for all of us. I don't care what initial is after your name, and that is the pettiness and the emptiness of our political discourse. Okay, it's them. It's the people that run the shop. They're the ones that did this.
Yeah. No, that's right, and that's right. That's why no one is going to do it. and there isn't even a fall guy. I mean, in Vietnam, it was kind of pretty much similar, but there was a fall guy, Westmoreland. And because Westmoreland had been removed from command, he was there. He was very vulnerable for everybody just to dump on Westmoreland and blame him for everything, as if somehow the general who was commanding the armies in South Vietnam is responsible, rather than the politicians who kind of created this mess. But it was convenient. Oh, it was all Westmoreland. You know, what a terrible person he was. So, but there isn't anyone like that now.
But he came out on top. Remember,
because I was going to mention that because of the lawsuit. Exactly. He prevailed in that lawsuit. Yeah.
But his name was forever stained.
Yes.
Okay.
No question. Yeah. And it was as I say, it was convenient because he had already been removed from command. I think it was Nixon who had removed him. So he was just convenient. Boom. Let's just dump on Westmoreland.
Yeah, I mean, of the 20 years, I think there were 19 commanders. One got fired in the Crystal for bad-mouthing Obama.
Yes, that's the only thing. That's your one crime. You don't bad-mouth Obama.
But the rest of them, kind of just no names, aren't they? Just no names.
Yeah.
Because it was just part of their resume. You said it right in the beginning of our podcast here. I mean, this is not the culmination of your career, having your 4 stars, command, theater command. No, it's like you're looking at the calendar. This thing is going to be over in 47 days. Good for me, because Raytheon is waiting.
Very good. With a very,
That's
very,
how it works. It's a step to the next one. It's not the culmination of your career.
Yes, that's it. Exactly. No, that's it. That's exactly it. Milley, thoroughly modern Milley, he's got his job. General Dynamics, Raytheon, Boeing. You know that he's well taken care of. He's going to have a very, very
he's going to be the diversity
retirement.
Be the diversity director. Okay?
That's it. Yes.
The scam continues.
Always.
All right, everybody, we're gonna keep a close eye on this. Unlike a lot of other people, George and I are going to put our focus on, if we can even use the term, Taliban foreign policy, if there's going to be such a thing. That's what's going to really interest me. There's nothing that the world can do what happens inside of Afghanistan. We haven't for 20 years. Why should we continue thinking about it? We don't want that ideology and practices to go across the border, particularly because I live in one of those countries, okay? Right. We're going to keep a close look on that. And of course, we're going to continue to endlessly shame everyone that was involved in it and call them out, those ones that hide from their culpability, because there's an end. You could fill a stadium of people of that ilk. All right, everybody, we're on Locals, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. The store is up. George and I have done a number of Q&As. We're gaggling on with individual interviews on Zoom, and we're still trying to decide on when we're going to have a super chat on YouTube.
Yep.
And
the buddy who's I think hiding the tip jar out of depression. He's just decided to just hide it for himself. But it's getting.
He heard your name. He can hear your name through Zoom.
So that tip jar, buddy, is getting awfully empty. So we would be most appreciative for any contribution to the tip jar. And buddy, above all, would be very appreciative. Look at that. Wouldn't you want to keep him happy, that little face? But in all seriousness, we don't have billionaire donors. We don't have Rupert Murdoch or Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else whipping out their checkbooks. So we rely on the generosity of fellow gagglers. So anything you could do would be most appreciated. And remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.